What do you do if you're 90 years old and your house is about to wash away into a river? Well, that's the sad question facing an elderly couple in Sutton tonight. They're watching as the Matanuska River gets closer and closer to washing away their dream. If you've driven the Glen Highway in Sutton, you might have seen it, the tidy little house with the green trim. It has a gorgeous view of the mountains.
This will give you a better idea.
And a view of the Matanuska River that now brings Val Musial to tears.
And I tell you, when I go to bed at night, if I hear something strange, I jump up out of bed and go look to see what disappeared. I don't think I'm going to be able to stay here much longer. It scared me to death.
Val is 90 years old. Her husband Ed is 94. They built this house back in the 1950s, and they had planned to live out their days in this home. That dream may be about to wash away.
We don't want to live here, Mike. We started this place in 1952, and we did all this work ourselves. Ed built this whole damn place. He did the plumbing, he did the wiring, he did everything. He did a lot of work here that should have been done with a machine, but we didn't have money, so he did it with his back. Today, well, he's wore out, and we can't start all over.
It wasn't always like this. Val says they used to have 50 feet of backyard, and the river channel was hundreds of feet beyond that.
Just step this close.
But the Matanuska River has eaten its way literally to their back door.
And now you look, it's just river. Everything's gone. Everything's gone. Used to be beautiful here.
Ed and Val's home isn't the first here to be threatened by erosion. A family log cabin downstream from them, built back in the 1940s, washed away just a few days ago. What are you and your husband going to do?
Well, we pray a lot, that's for sure.
Val and her husband are angry that more hasn't been done to help them and other people living along the river. They say dikes built back in the 80s collapsed, and the rush of water made the erosion worse. Mat-Su Borough officials say they don't have authority over erosion control. Governor Walker flew over the area Wednesday, but the state says naturally occurring erosion does not qualify for a disaster declaration.
It's a very sad situation. We understand that. It's not that people aren't doing things and aren't trying to help these folks. It's just that the funding resources are sparse, and we can only use the programs that we have to address these issues.
You see that green grass over there? That's where the channel was. That's where the river was, way over there. And now it's right here in my backyard.
Val and Ed say they will stay in their home as long as they can.
I wouldn't wish this on anyone. No one.
All they can do now is wait, watch, and worry. Val Musial told me today that she and her husband hope that their home will survive until winter. That's when the river levels will drop. I asked her what they will do if the river takes their home. She told me that their only backup plan is to try to buy a small trailer to live in on their remaining land, assuming the river doesn't take that too. Well, there's a special bond between mother and child, and that's also true when the little one has 4 legs and a tail. A baby was born in the valley this past weekend that probably should not be alive, but she's surrounded now by people who want to give her a fighting chance. This horse stall is now an intensive care unit for a little horse with big challenges.
This little foal wants to live. She has a heart like I have never experienced before. She is strong, she's determined, she has the most amazing blue eyes.
Horses are normally born feet first, but this little one came out nose first and got stuck in the birth canal.
She came out like this.
The reason she is presenting that way is that she could not extend her front legs.
Good girl.
They thought the baby and her mother would both die.
We were, by some miracle, able to save both of them.
And because of that, they gave her this name.
My mom picked Little Blessin because she was not supposed to be here from the start.
But Little Blessing was born with a crippling problem. contracted tendons. She can't stretch her legs out completely and can only stand for a few moments, which means she can't nurse on her own.
It's a very difficult process, just like human babies. They're very demanding, and foals, when they're first born, have to eat every 30 minutes.
At first, the chances of her survival looked grim. After Little Blessing was born last weekend, a bit of a big miracle happened. Dozens of people stepped up to give this little horse a fighting chance.
She is a fighter, and she survived a miracle, the birth in itself, and so then we felt like we should give her a chance.
They are working around the clock, milking her mother and bottle feeding this baby to help her build up her strength.
She's trying so hard in every way, so it's like, why not? I mean, we'll give her every fighting chance she has.
What a good girl.
And to try to strengthen and stretch her legs, the volunteers gently wrap them and put on homemade splints. 2 hours on, 2 hours off, all day and all night.
At first it was a lot of just trying to make sure we get through day by day, hour by hour.
More up on her butt. There we go.
Little Blessing's veterinarian made these splints out of PVC pipe cut in half and foam pipe insulation to cushion her legs. Her owners hope to buy custom braces made in Europe that would work much better, but they're expensive, $750 each. They've started a GoFundMe page for Little Blessing to try to raise the money.
It's incredible. It just affirms the fact that the horse community is so strong, that everyone is praying and fighting and working hard to have Blessing be a success story.
And the strength in the legs.
They say Little Blessing is getting stronger, but the next few days will be critical for this little horse that's getting a lot of TLC.
You can do it. You can do it.
Little Blessing's owners say they're getting emotional support from horse lovers all across the country. Now, if you'd like to help with the cost of buying those special leg braces and for her continuing veterinary care, there's a link to Little Blessing's GoFundMe page. It'll be on our story on KTUU.com. Well, a lot of our Channel 2 viewers have sent me some great ideas for stories during the past couple of weeks, and thanks for your suggestions. I got this message from Elsie O'Brien on Facebook that said, the men at Point McKenzie Prison made a bunch of Afghans for Mat-Su Homeless Connect. It would be interesting to know that story of why. Well, I thought Elsie was right. So we went out there today to find out why prison inmates are making Afghans. At the Point McKenzie Correctional Farm, inmates are bagging up potatoes they grew last summer and raising pigs that will eventually become dinner.
We started off 26 years ago with about 2 acres. And now it's grown to 640 acres.
But what do inmates at a prison farm do in the dead of winter when there are no crops to grow?
Imagine that.
Well, some of them crochet, something they never thought they'd be doing when they went to prison.
It's called a Hattimal. It's a panda bear. I got a book that's got 6 different Hattimals in it. It's got a panda bear, a brown bear, a dinosaur, a puppy dog.
The inmates crochet everything from blankets for the homeless to toys for children with serious illnesses.
We started with 8 prisoners making the animals, and within a month they had 180 made. And those were specially made for Providence Cancer Center.
It's my way probably of giving back, and I've lost so much of my daughter, my granddaughter's lives from doing prison time, jail time, and my way of giving back when I see the smiles and the children grab the blankets or the little toys, the hats, and this, that, and other, you know, their tears bring tears to my eyes.
At the Mat-Su Homeless Connect event a couple of weeks ago, the inmates donated 450 of their blankets.
They wanted us to make blankets and hats and scarves for the homeless people, and so I started doing it, and it was kind of nice. I got out and actually saw somebody wearing one of my hats that I made.
I think it's fair to say that most people, when they think of prison, they don't think about inmates crocheting. And you might be wondering, how did all this get started? It began with just 6 inmates back in 2007 at the Palmer Correctional Center in a program to build self-esteem and help the community. And it grew quickly.
And by 2010, we had over 200 prisoners crocheting.
The inmates say donating what they make with their own hands helps them feel like they're paying their debt to society.
I mean, we all have histories, and I know how really good it felt when somebody was generous to me when I was going pretty bad, so I'm just glad to be able to give back.
But crocheting also helps them stay connected to their families.
I've been incarcerated since my son was born.
Rusty Parrish's son is now 6 years old. He gets out in 19 days, and he'll have some presents for his boy.
So it was a way for me to give something back to my son, too, missing out on birthdays and holidays. I made hats, scarves, blankets.
The correctional officers who supervise the inmates say they see a change in them when they decide to give this a try.
It gives them a sense of purpose. For some of them, they almost feel like they're atoning for what they did.
The inmates say crocheting helps pass the time as they serve their sentences. And in a way, it's helping them stitch together a new life. Now, the crochet program was officially suspended when the Palmer prison closed down late last year, but that hasn't stopped the inmates. They're continuing it on their own on a limited basis until the program officially restarts later this year. Back here at home, living in Alaska is always full of surprises, and during the past few days, some people here in Anchorage have seen one of our natural wonders swimming in a place that caught them by surprise. When we show you beluga whales on TV, it usually looks like this. Some white humps way out in the water, just a fleeting glimpse, and you really can't see them.
All of a sudden you see the baby come up right behind Mom. Oh my God.
Moa Zhang got two on camera Sunday evening up close, in a place you might not expect.
I mean, I go there every week, 3 times a week sometimes. And in the 20 years I've been up here, that was like the first time I've ever experienced anything like that. So it's pretty amazing, and I feel blessed.
That place where she saw them? Ship Creek. Yep, down there by the Ulu factory and the Bridge restaurant. Peter Scully saw them too.
Coming across the bridge, I noticed a beluga whale just breaching right in the middle of the creek, so I pulled the car slowly over to the side of the road and got out with my camera.
And Peter started snapping these amazing pics.
They continued to just slowly make their way up the creek towards the bridge right here. Swam, it was a mother and a calf. Swam under the bridge, did a little bit of a U-turn, and then just kind of took their time under the bridge.
Peter watched the whales for about 15 minutes.
It looked like the calf was foraging sort of from side to side, but it would always come back to the mom, sort of sweep over its back and look up towards the bridge, and so it was really exciting to watch.
Peter is an attorney with an office downtown, and he sees belugas out in the inlet quite often.
I have not seen them this close, though, ever before, and so it was a real treat getting to see, having that opportunity. I mean, it was like staring through an aquarium.
Whale watchers say if you decide to go down to Ship Creek to see them, keep in mind they are protected as an endangered species. They're sensitive to loud sounds, so keep it down. And look, but don't try to touch.
Any effort that you make if you tried to get into the water to potentially get closer to the whales could potentially be considered a form of harassment, which is illegal.
The Beluga Whale Alliance says it's actually not too unusual for them to swim into creeks. We just don't normally see them this clearly.
It's also really, really great to see such a healthy-looking calf with a mom. That means that these whales are calving in the wild, and that's hopefully good news.
Peter's pics have become an online hit.
We've had a lot of folks on Facebook, on our Beluga Whale Alliance Facebook page since we've posted and shared Peter's photos, actually saying they can't get the Baby Beluga song out of their head, which is great.
The Baby Beluga song, how does that go?
Baby Beluga, oh baby Beluga. I don't know if I can go on. You probably don't want me to.
It's right there.
Oh, the things people are willing to do in the name of science.
It's a beluga.
It's a mom and a baby, I think.
Now, high tide this evening at Ship Creek is around 7 o'clock tonight, and the Beluga Whale Alliance says if you're going down there to try to spot the whales in Ship Creek, do it responsibly, let them swim in peace. Now, there's a hotline that you can call if you spot Cook Inlet beluga whales. That number is 877-925-7773, 24 hours a day. And Rebecca, I am not going to sing the Baby Beluga song.
That's the reason I showed up for today. I mean, what's the point of being at work if I don't get to see you singing, Mike?
Well, it would be epic, but I'm not going to do it.
All right, thanks a lot.
This is a situation in Alaska. Right now, more than 19,000 Alaskans get their health insurance through the exchange. Most of them get subsidies for their premiums. Almost 35,000 Alaskans are covered by Medicaid expansion and could lose the chance for coverage if the ACA is repealed. What do you have to say to those Alaskans to try to reassure them about what the Republicans are trying to do?
Well, I could tell them that we're working very closely with
both of their great senators to make sure that the reforms in the bill that will repeal and replace Obamacare will give states like Alaska the ability to see to the needs of our most vulnerable. When you combine the new flexibility in Medicaid with the tax credits that are available for Americans under the proposed legislation, we truly do believe that there's a pathway forward for us to make a transition away from the failed policies of Obamacare. But look, the simple truth is Obamacare has failed. I mean, we all remember the promises that were made that health insurance premiums would go down. On average across this country, health insurance premiums have gone up $3,000, more than 100% in some jurisdictions and 200% in others. And President Trump and I are absolutely committed to working with members of the Senate, just like we did with the House of Representatives, and keep our promise to the American people to rescue our country from the collapsing failure of Obamacare and give the American people a fresh start on health care reform that lowers the cost of health insurance and gives states like Alaska all new flexibility to meet the needs of those who depend on programs like Medicaid.
Mr. Vice President, you mentioned our two Alaska senators. Senator Lisa Murkowski voted for repeal in 2015, but this week she said she cannot vote to repeal without a replacement plan because she says it would create too much uncertainty for Alaskans. Have you had a chance to talk to her about her position, and what would you say to her to try to change her mind?
You know, we've talked with both of your senators multiple times in recent days, and we'll continue to. The President and I hold them both in the highest regard. But look, the most important vote in a long time in the United States Senate is going to come up as soon as this Tuesday, and that's the vote to begin the debate to repeal and replace Obamacare. You know, 51 members of the Senate all voted back in 2015 just to repeal Obamacare alone and develop a replacement plan later. And President Trump believes if the Congress can't do anything else, they should at least relieve the American people from the collapsing failure of Obamacare. But the President's first choice, our first choice, sounds like the Senator's first choice as well, is to repeal and replace Obamacare. And the legislation that we'll be considering, if the Senate takes up this bill this week, will do just that. But it's important that your viewers know that this is a historic opportunity that's approaching as soon as this Tuesday. And we're urging not only your senators, but every member of the Senate in both political parties to vote on Tuesday to begin this debate. Let's take up the legislation, and ultimately we believe that we'll be able to come together around legislation that will repeal and replace Obamacare and get that to the President's desk for his signature and give the American people a fresh start on health care reform that will lower the cost of health insurance by allowing Americans to choose the health insurance that fits best for them and for their families, and also give states all new flexibility to reform Medicaid in ways that will meet the needs of our most vulnerable.
Mr. Vice President, a lot of Alaskans are watching this debate. Republican politicians, including some here in Alaska, have been winning elections for years promising to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Now some are saying they won't vote for this repeal bill. Why should voters here in Alaska trust the party to keep its promises moving forward?
Well, the President and I believe that it's important that we keep our promises to the American people. And to your point, every Republican in the Congress over the last 7 years has promised to repeal and replace Obamacare. And now it's time for Congress to do their job and be as good as our word. When President Trump ran for office last fall, with me at his side, we both pledged to the people of this country that we were going to give America a fresh start, repeal and replace this disastrous failure of Obamacare. And we're just calling on the Senate to do what the House already did, do its job, take up this bill. We'll continue to improve the legislation in ways that will benefit the American people, but it's time for the Senate to do its work, and we're urging every member of the Senate to step up and to deliver for the American people. Let's start the debate this week. Let's work out any remaining differences, improve this legislation, get it to the President's desk. As he said, he's holding his pen, he's ready to sign it, and with the President's signature, we'll not only repeal Obamacare, but we'll give the American people a fresh start on health care that's built on consumer choice, individual freedom, and state-based reform, so states like Alaska can develop unique solutions that'll meet the needs of your most vulnerable.
Vice President Mike Pence, thanks so much for taking time to talk to us, and we hope that someday you get some time off and you'll come visit us way up here in Alaska.
Look forward to being back in Alaska soon. It is a glorious state.
Mr. Vice President, thank you so much.